At least I think so. At least I hope so. Look, apparently, I think that's me. Well, that's my picture, and there's me. Hey, hi. It's August already, August 1st, 2023. This is Up North News Radio. Good morning from Milwaukee. Not quite Lake Wissota, but down here for a work function, and spending some time on a great place by a great lake, to borrow their old slogan from the 80s and 90s. All right, coming up this morning, we'll talk a little bit about how very uh, unnerving it is for a guy who works in broadcasting to just completely lose his voice for a couple of days. We'll be joined later in our first hour by Kristen Lyerly, who will take a lot of the vocal load off of me. So that's great. Then we'll spend a lot of time in our second hour talking about how, because this is August 1st, it's a brand new day in Wisconsin. Wisconsin gets a new Supreme Court justice, and progressives take control of the state Supreme Court, ending a 15 plus year reign of error by right wing justices. So we will talk to a couple of folks from Motherhood for Good and also to State Senate Democratic leader Meliss Agard all about that. Plus, we'll talk to Chad Holmes before the show wraps up as well to find out what he's talking about on Bull Falls Radio up in Wausau. So stick around. The radio show gets started in 4 minutes. How did that all sound for starters?
The internet was glitching a little bit towards the end.
Oh dear. Okay. Um, maybe. Well, I mean, we don't really have a choice now. I'm not gonna. I just did not have a lot of faith that I could get to Waukesha, learn the board and everything else. But
Right.
if today doesn't go well, then I won't have any choice. I'll have to go out there and learn it and go out there at 5 in the morning. So let's just see how it goes here. What you could do is in the comments, you don't have to do it every single time, but if things glitch to the point where I should probably say something to the audience, just put something in the comment like, glitchy or glitch or whatever,
Okay.
and I'll know. Because like I said, the speed on this thing is crazy, but I just, hotels are sometimes notorious for, I don't know, putting little interruptions in there. Maybe they don't want you to
Yeah.
download the Library of Congress or something like that, So we'll see.
It's there for advertising purposes, not to actually use.
Yeah, you're right. And and I don't really, I mean, we're a day behind. I don't have a lot new to add on things that have already been discussed, like about Derek Van Orden, yelling at the pages and things. So, feel free to jump in with anything else that you've heard from the other shows or other thoughts on it, because mostly I've been getting set for this little team retreat that we're doing down here today. So with one person who now can't make it because of illness, and another one literally just got here an hour ago after an 8-hour drive. So we're not going to be all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as we planned this thing a month ago. All right, I'll be right back. Oh. There we go. Okay. I'm working off of 2 laptops, so I have to keep reminding myself which mouse pad I'm working with. Also, because it's a laptop and I want to keep the notes and the screen in front of me, the screen for the video feed is teeny tiny, but you'll let me know if there's anything really weird.
Yeah. 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
all across Wisconsin from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, let's see how this thing goes today. Hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. Wow, I have a voice again. This is amazing. Welcome to the state of Wisconsin. Normally from the shores of Lake Wissota, today from the shores of Lake Michigan, where I'm in downtown Milwaukee for an Up North News function. But it's nice to have you along. It's nice to be talking to you again on this, what is it? August 1st. And from where we are in Milwaukee here, we do have maybe the occasional internet glitch. So I beg your pardon on that. We'll see how things continue to roll as we report from the big city. We have a lot going on today. So, I mean, we're not going to take hardly any time to note that this is our first birthday, that Up North News Radio made its premiere on a Monday, August 1st of 2022. So here we are a year into this, and I am extremely thankful for everybody that is tuning in. First, when we were a mid-morning show from 8 to 11 in the mornings, and now as an early morning show. And as you can probably tell, this is going to be what Erin will definitely have his rim shot ready. This is our pony show because I'm a little hoarse. But thank you very much. There is something really unnerving about waking up as I did Saturday morning, which would have been day 7 of some kind of a summer head cold, and having no voice. I opened up and nothing but squeaks came out, and it was just squeaks and whispers Saturday and Sunday, and then into parts of yesterday. And it really wasn't until late yesterday that some kind of tenor came back to this thing. And so we made the decision that we could go ahead and do this today. So hopefully between the technical glitches and the physical glitches, we'll be okay to give you a show, because there are definitely things that we want to talk about today. Things like, who let the Nazis in Watertown while we were away? Who let Derek Van Orden have some kind of a late night kegger that ended with him getting disorderly with some kids, and not just kids, Senate pages who have more patriotism in their little toe than some guy whose toes were walking around the Capitol grounds on January 6th. But another question I have for today is, how great is it that you can almost feel the change in the Wisconsin climate today? Because in just a few hours, we will have the investiture of Janet Protasiewicz as a brand new justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And it will mark the start of a return toward normalcy after years of political activism by far-right state Supreme Court justices. We will discuss the significance for Wisconsinites of a court that is under progressive control for the first time in a very long time. We'll do that with some friends from Motherhood for Good. And then later in our second hour with State Senate Democratic leader Meliss Agard. We'll also visit with Dr. Kristen Lyerly in this hour and Chad Holmes in our next hour. And along the way, as always, you can also give your laryngitis, home remedies if you like, 844-967-2789. And you can email us radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Looks like we should now mercifully bring in one Erin Zommers to help me lighten up the load with some of the chatter. Erin, you mentioned that there's a little glitch or two here. I hope it's been somewhat listenable from your end.
Yeah. Like you said, there's glitches here and there, maybe a couple of clicks and pops, but overall, we're getting the message. So all good.
I think, clicks and pops live, beats once again having another best of show. So we'll go through this because, again, today is a big day. I'm sure you're going to hear this on civic media radio stations all day long about what it's like to have Janet Protasiewicz sworn in today and how things are not immediately, but going to be a little different in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I think all of us are ready for that.
Oh my goodness, yes, so much so. I feel like I'm getting better as the minutes go by. I hate to say it, but as terrible as hotel room coffee is, maybe this was the wonder drug. Maybe this swill is what finally helped me get over the hurdle. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah, I think I'm sure that has something to do with it. Just drinking anything hot will help.
Yes, no doubt. The gargling and everything else that has to be done. Hey, I want to get in one quick pitch here because Civic Pints is still going on, and that is the blood donation contest that we've got going on, where all you've got to do is donate blood, take a selfie, put up the hashtag Civic Pints, and go to Civic Pints or go to the Civic Media webpage and get yourself entered for a chance to win State Fair tickets, Milwaukee Brewers tickets, other prizes, all for the good cause of helping replenish blood banks, which are running so low on supply during the summertime months. So we'd appreciate that very much. You can sign up for the Up North News daily newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com. In today's newsletter, Christina Laurie tells us about how it's CrossFit Week in Madison. I was there last year for that, not intentionally, of course, but to see that many really physically fit people walking around town was it destroyed what little self-esteem I had for a few days. But I hit a drive-through on the way out of town with a double cheeseburger, and all was right in the world after that. So let's take a break. We'll talk a bit about some of the headlines that we've missed the couple of days that we've been off, and catch up on a whole lot on this August 1st on Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Thanks for being here. We'll be back in just a moment.
I don't sound my best either because I was hanging out with a cat owner last night.
Ooh, okay. That'll do it.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life.
You have probably figured out by now that I'm a little hoarse, and so we're going with a horse theme for bumper music here, starting with the horse with no name. Let's see. Oh, I've got some great sports notes to tell you about. First off, well, one's great, one's not so great. First off, let's talk about, before we get to the Brewers, because they lost and fell out of first place here. So let's look ahead to autumn, because autumn Sundays in Wisconsin include a sacred tradition that beats loud and proud, and that, of course, would be the Green Bay Packers. And you've dreamed of being part of that winning franchise, and now some of you can, because Civic Media's WRJN in Racine, Kenosha will broadcast every Packers game. all season long, and your business can be in the huddle and on the line of scrimmage when you become a sponsor of the Packer broadcasts. The Civic Media marketing teams are ready to get you signed up with the Green Bay Packers, the Wisconsin Badgers, and with all the local high school sports broadcasts. So call and make an appointment to talk to a Civic Media team member about this opportunity at 608-819-8255. That's 608-819-8255. You should hurry, they tell me, because appointments are filling fast and only a few sponsorships remain, but your business can be affiliated with America's team. 608-819-8255 to get your business off the sidelines and into the game. That's one more time, 608-819-8255. All right, now to the Brewers. After giving up 29 runs last weekend in Atlanta, the Brewers were eager to put behind them the Braves' 3-game sweep. There should have been no better cure than the lowly Washington Nationals. But alas, the losing streak has now hit 4 games. The Nationals' Joey Meneses homered and drove in 3 runs as the rebuilding Nats gave the playoff contending Brewers their 4th straight loss, 5-3. Monday night, Joey Wiemer homered for the Brewers. But in the end, the Brewers are now a game and a half behind Cincinnati. They are tied for the wild card position in the playoffs at this point, but they will continue their series against the Washington Nationals again later on this evening. And you can hear the Brewers on Oshkosh Air Support, 98.3 FM, 1100 AM in the Fox Valley, and WRCE News from the Center and Richland Center, 107.7 FM and 1450 AM. I don't have a lot that would necessarily count as new to add under the topic of Derek Van Orden's rant over the weekend or late last week against Senate pages on Capitol Hill. Other than to say, I think that the congressman from Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District perhaps needs a babysitter. Because as reports explain it, I mean, this was late in the evening. He had people over, there was drinking going on in the office. And at some point, the congressman went and chewed out Senate pages who were lying in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol, lying there looking up, taking photos. Why were they doing that? Because it's awesome. It's an amazing experience to work in the U.S. Capitol, especially as a young person, and to see that view of the dome. As somebody who's been a state legislator and knows that Wisconsin has one of the most beautiful Capitol buildings in the United States, it's something that so many people take for granted. The investment that people were willing to make into the seat of government to show pride in their state and in their country out in Washington, D.C. And I've seen so many people, most of them young people, obviously, lying on their backs with their phones, looking up and taking pictures of the beautiful dome. And I've seen the one in the U.S. Capitol, and it's beautiful. And these Senate pages were coming up on the end of their experience. It was going to be time to go home. And in comes this congressman up way past his bedtime and starts screaming at these kids and hurling expletives at them, and then has the audacity to try to defend it by making some kind of comment about the Capitol being a sacred place. Really? This coming from Derek Van Orden, the insurrection adjacent congressman from the 3rd District, who, as near as photo evidence can show, was on the wrong side of police lines on January 6th, 2021. As others, he says he was not one of them, went into the U.S. Capitol and basically tried to overthrow the government, one marching through the rotunda with a Confederate flag. That's the desecration we haven't heard Derek Van Orden say nearly enough about. Instead, it appears the congressman has, for some reason, decided to treat the Capitol as his own dormitory. far too many members of Congress are treating the Capitol and the nearby office buildings as dormitories. This has stuck in my craw dating back to when the Tea Party class came on board in 2011. And Sean Duffy was one of many freshmen who bragged about sleeping in their offices rather than paying high rent because they wanted to, save money and be in touch with their colleagues. That's not how Congress is supposed to work, or a legislature for that matter. The Capitol is not your dormitory. It's not your apartment. It's not where you sit up late drinking with buddies or lobbyists or staffers or whoever the case may be. It's certainly not the place where you have a lapse in judgment, to put it mildly, and chew out some honorable young people trying to make the most of a majestic experience in a building that had recently been desecrated by people that Congressman Van Orden no doubt supported politically, if not their actions. There's this culture that we have when members of Congress of either party treat their office as an extension of themselves. This is not your apartment. That office belongs to your constituents. It belongs to Americans. It does not belong to you. It's your workplace. The workday is over. Go home. And go home might mean, going to a rented apartment. I certainly did in Madison. I had a place 2 blocks away in an old building with a Murphy bed, the kind that you pull out of the wall. Like I said, a very old building. It had a particular, shall we say, flavor to it. In fact, one time I had to leave the building and find other accommodations when the renter above me fell asleep in the bathtub, and suddenly all kinds of water was draining on me from the ceiling light fixture. It was one of those buildings. But I did it because that's what you do. Because your workplace is not your home. And Derek Van Orden should know better. Well, most people should know better. But he owes those pages a humble apology. And he needs to make this right. He needs to tie that in by putting into perspective how much worse it was. The people who were in that building on January 6th, 2021, people that he watched and probably applauded as they marched by, as he made that trip to Washington, D.C., using funds that were part of campaign donations by people that got him into office. This man wants so badly for you to think of him as just another regular guy, but he sure seems more prone to acting like the guy, you know him, the guy you're casually friendly to, but you know how he sometimes turns into a loudmouth jerk for no rational reason, as if he gets triggered by things now and then, and you'll wave, but you're not going to spend any more time with him than you have to. And perhaps constituents of the 3rd District will think about doing that as well. We also had, over the past few days, the incidents of Nazis marching in Watertown. And I'm not going to get into the nature of, who these people were and what the group was that decided to protest and a day of celebration for the LGBTQ community, cheering horrific, slimy things at these people, men, women, and children, just trying to enjoy a day. The fact of the matter is, it's not just an extension of the culture of hatred that certain political actors have encouraged in this country. It is also an extension of the gun-loving culture, because had at least one of those men not been armed, I have no doubt they would have been essentially welcomed to leave. But there was no reason to turn this into something that involved gunplay. And the fact that we so easily are forced to tolerate open carrying of weapons in the name of political speech is something our founding fathers would roll in their graves at the thought of. But unfortunately, the people who marched had some support early on from one of the state legislators from that area, Republican Representative Barb Dittrich of Conomowoc, who posted on Twitter and then deleted it, but said that the event for the LGBTQ community should have been held in a private space without children. While I do not represent the city, I do represent the town and have many friends who live there, Dittrich. They find this completely unacceptable in their community. Now, on Monday, she said that she was unaware that there were masked members of a known hate group at the event. And she said, I find that loathsome, disgusting, and condemned it the minute I learned of it, she said in a statement. One can find both adult performances unsuitable for children at the same time they find hate groups to be vile. Well, if that isn't the worst example of both sidesism one could offer over recent events, let's take it from the standpoint of, drag performances. A drag performance has never left a dozen children lying in pools of blood. A banned book has never shot up an LGBTQ nightclub. You can find loathsome and disgusting hate groups, and you can find loathsome and disgusting the lack of action by Representative Dittrich and others about all of the gun deaths in this country. But the both sidesism that we see from the representative and others, well, that just only is going to encourage further acts like this, and hopefully not the violence that would come with it as well. I think Kristen Lyerly is going to be helping to take some of the relief off my voice coming up next now that we've gotten through some headlines. So stick around through this break and we will visit in our second half hour, wherever you are, like here in Milwaukee, all over Wisconsin. When it comes to America, you're up north. We'll be back. Amen, Paul. Amen. Were we equally glitchy and poppy there, Erin?
Slightly better, but still probably worth saying something about.
Okay. Well, that's okay. It's about to get a lot better now. Here she is.
Good morning. Listen to that sexy voice.
Yeah, right. Yikes. How are you?
I'm all right.
Okay.
Nice to be home.
Yeah, no kidding. For how long?
A week.
Okay.
Then I go to Chicago to see Springsteen at Wrigley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not a lot of vacations this summer, but a lot of travel and just some really cool experiences.
Yeah, well, and I've noticed that in comments about your posts that, that the fact that you're taking the little bits of time to travel and see things while you're working, that's still a cool experience.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're home, you just have to find those little nuggets in your life that make you feel human and
Yes.
connected to the earth and to people and all the important stuff. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well, good.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk about, you put up so many pictures of your boy and his historical reenactment?
Oh, the Bubs. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how it was the hottest month on record and my air conditioning has been out and my kids have been living in my hot house.
Oh, no. Oh, that sucks.
No, but you know what? They've been tolerating it. I mean, this actually, I think that's a topic that people might appreciate because it's been hot for
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah. And again, at a certain point we go, yeah, after a certain age you go, hey, I didn't grow up with central air conditioning.
They're just wearing fewer clothes and doing less laundry. They're seeing a lot of
Mhm.
benefits.
Yep. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Erin. How are you?
Doing well. Glad to hear that you're home.
Man, it's just so nice. I did about
mhm.
8 loads of laundry yesterday.
Ah,
hmm
so you're not just in scrubs all day and somebody else can do that for you?
Now, I like cleaning my house. I find
Yep.
satisfaction in cleaning my house.
That's
So I
good.
don't hire that out.
Oh, I just meant you could wear scrubs, and make the laundry even easier.
Oh,
Let
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 somebody else do
let
my
the let the hospital wash your clothes.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
You're revealing a little bit of your of Sherry's life there.
There's times it feels that way, as you know, when you're trapped there long enough. You're like, there's definitely days where she does. It's it's very, very rare. But if I see her in scrubs in the morning, I know that she already knows what kind of a day it's going to be.
Mhm. When I'm on the road, like when I'm in the hospital, I
Mhm.
mostly wear scrubs. So I don't have a ton of laundry, but my laundry, I don't have a place to wash. So I hand wash all of it in the sink.
Sure,
So I went through an entire bottle of Woolite in July,
I believe
but
it.
the hospital did do most of my laundry.
Nice. All right, here we go. 10 seconds. Well, that's one way of looking at it. No matter how hoarse I am, it would take wild horses to keep me from doing a show here where, Kristen Lyerly could lighten the load and lighten the mood a little bit. And Paul, comment online, who says, my friend, too many weird things are going on in this country. Paul, I say amen. Kristen, good morning.
Good morning, sexy voice, Pat
Yeah,
Kreitlow.
yeah. I have been sick at times with where you kind of get that Barry White thing going. This is definitely not one of those. But
Mm,
I've gone back and when you look at tapes when you're on TV and you're looking for some file video of something, and then you catch yourself anchoring between the clips, and you're like, "Ooh, I maybe should have stayed home one more day." And I'm I'm
mm,
realizing here, if you just noticed a change, I should stop trying to project. That's what, TV people, public speakers, you're always trying to project. And I'm
mhm.
realizing that puts a lot of gravel in there. So I'm just going to keep things kind of low and soft here with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, baby. Do that.
Just I feel like now we do need some Barry White going on back there. And again, I will note for the listener that I'm using Wi-Fi in a place where the Wi-Fi speed is amazing, but it doesn't stop the occasional glitch here and there. So our apologies, but we really didn't want to go through another best of show when we have so much stuff going on. And Kristen, we have so many headlines to catch up on and things like that. But you too have been traveling like a crazy person between Arizona, Minnesota, Wisconsin. You were doing a Grand Canyon tour last week. You were doing some national press last week. And meanwhile, your sons are back home in Green Bay and you're torturing them with that old parental excuse of, oh, the air conditioning's broken, boys. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Sorry, guys. I know, and it was the hottest month on record. Whoops.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they've learned a few things. They've learned that they can wear fewer clothing and do less laundry.
Hmm.
That's been good for them. They've learned that it's okay to be a little warm. And actually, they're not complaining. So that's something.
No, that is good. And again, I think from a certain age, and of course a certain level of upbringing, not everybody has central air conditioning,
Mhm.
growing up. And I was definitely one of those. I mean, we had box fans everywhere.
Us too.
And when it gets really hot and a couple of times our air conditioner has, conked out or whatnot, I'm like, well, I'd rather have the AC on, but if I've got fans, where I am, I'm actually okay with that,
Uh-huh.
at
Did
least
you
for
ever
a
make
while.
one of those box fan forts where you put a sheet around it and then it like blew out the entire sheet and you could just climb inside of it and it was like living in a wind tunnel?
Oh, yes. It was awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, you do that. And then, of course, we had a sofa bed. Everybody had a sofa bed back in the day, it feels like. And so that if you would just extend that sheet off of the sofa bed, your fort includes the area under the sofa bed as well.
Yes.
It's just awesome.
Oh, you're kind of making me want to make a fort right now.
I know one of these days we're going to have a pillow fort episode of the radio show.
Hey, guess what else I learned?
What else did you learn?
So because I don't have an air conditioner now, I need to replace my air conditioner and my furnace is 20 years old. So I really ought to replace my furnace too.
Oh, yeah.
So I had the furnace company come over, the one that does my usual maintenance, and I had them just take a look at what we've got and what we need to do. And they came up with this estimate that I just didn't feel like I had all the information I needed. So I called our friend, Dr. Joel Charles, and I said, Joel, things are changing in the world right now, and I'd really like to be smart about this giant purchase I'm about to make. So what do you recommend? And he said, why don't you consider getting a home energy audit, which is something I had never even heard of before.
Hmm.
So I looked around a little bit, and this is something that people commonly do. And I called a couple companies, and a fella's coming out later this week to just walk through my house, see where all the leaky things are, and talk about what are the options in light of, all of the new power options, how heat pumps are getting better. So what is the best option for my house moving forward? And I'm really excited that I might have a really neat, energy efficient, like thoughtful house in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and now with the Inflation Reduction Act, you will have access to all kinds of credits on almost any type of system you put in, because anything that you put in is going to be energy efficient to some degree. And so you're
Mhm.
you're actually going to be paying a lot less. So, I mean, nobody wishes for something to conk out, but your timing's pretty good.
Well, you know it's gonna happen. I mean, this
Mhm.
happened to us last year with the car. We had to buy an extra car and we went with an electric vehicle. And again, with the Inflation Reduction Act, we got a giant tax credit for
Mhm.
purchasing an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So all of these smart consumer choices that you don't just make the knee-jerk reaction, but you actually put a little thought into it. There's a huge benefit thanks to Joe Biden and the work that they're doing up in Washington, D.C.
That's right. And speaking of car damage, the update to the hail damage to Sherry's car, if
Uh-oh.
folks remember seeing that with the ping pong ball sized hail that was hitting it. Yeah, they totaled that out. I mean, it was a 5-digit repair bill to fix it.
Oh.
So that was the end of that, which was too bad. It was a 2010 Volkswagen EOS hardtop convertible. I'd never had a hardtop convertible before. Nice machine.
Uh-huh. So is that gonna be the replacement machine?
No, no, we'll figure out something else. Uh,
Mhm.
she being a good frugal farm girl, is saying, well, let's just. And meanwhile, I'm looking over at the BMW X5, and things like that. Going, come on, we got to treat you.
You only
Uh,
live once.
that's right. So
Mhm.
tell me more about the Grand Canyon trip. You had family come down.
Yeah, so I've been working in northern Arizona, and there are so many national monuments within like a 3-hour drive of where I'm working. I got a couple days off, so Lindsay, my third son, and my partner Craig came out to visit. We spent a day at the Grand Canyon, biked the South Rim, which is about 30 miles at elevation. That was fun. It was
Yeah.
hot too. Whew. But man, you see a picture of the Grand Canyon, you're like, oh, there it is. But you just can't even begin to capture the majesty. And every time you turn around and look back at the canyon, you see it from a different perspective. It's captivating.
Oh my God, majesty is the right word for it. It's or holy crap for those of you who want smaller
Yeah.
words. But it also helps you appreciate time. You think
Mhm.
about how much time it took for the water to do what it did to create that, and how long things have been around. I mean, it really humbles you, kind of puts you in your place. Meanwhile, one of your other boys is busy doing some other historical reenactments, not from that many millions of years ago, but back in time a little bit.
Yeah, little Pat Kreitlow got out his drum and Yep. My youngest son works as a historical interpreter here in Green Bay at Heritage Hill State Park. And if y'all haven't visited Heritage Hill, it is such a cool little park. They have taken this plot of land and they've moved all of these historical buildings so that they can recreate different pieces of time in the region. And it is authentic. The people who run Heritage Hill, when they have to fix something, they fix it the way they did back in the 1800s or whatever era they're trying to reenact. They don't just, throw a nail in something. So it is really beautiful. And my 14-year-old's job is to walk around with his drum at Fort Howard in historical garb and talk to visitors about the history of the place. So they have a fife and drum corps here. And they went to Fort Snelling in St. Paul and they did a muster with a bunch of other historical reenactors in St. Paul. And the funny thing was, the person who puts it together just happens to be married to one of my friends from marching band. So a couple of my old U of M marching band people were involved too. It was and I didn't know that in advance. So it was very cool to see all the pictures and to see just the great time that they were all having together, remembering the history of this region.
And so along with, keeping tabs on family and traveling, you've still been doing national, I think international press as well, as people were looking forward to today with the new state Supreme Court justice and looking at the abortion ban. What are your thoughts? We've made it to August 1st.
I can't believe it. We're here finally. We still have a long way to go with this abortion ban. It's not resolved. And, of course, having a liberal Supreme Court justice who has been clear about how she feels doesn't mean that she's going to rule in a way, there are no promises there. So we hope that we're going to start seeing things move in the direction that builds community and brings us together. This is a step, but it's not over yet. And we're still not feeling confident that we can provide comprehensive reproductive care for women in Wisconsin. So the fight goes on, but we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we did know last week with folks from Planned Parenthood that while abortion care is still not being provided, there are still things happening in the clinics, all kinds of other preventive measures, screenings, things like that. It's not the full slate, but there are people providing services there who are continuing to monitor this case and, hoping that women will again, be treated as equals in terms of their health care in Wisconsin.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because everything except abortion care is still being provided here in Wisconsin. So if you need STI screening, if you need a Pap test, if you need whatever you need, it's still there. And if you need an abortion, we can refer you. We can help you find those pathways. We can help you get resources. Just call Planned Parenthood. But you just can't receive abortion care here in Wisconsin. And as I've said so many times, if you are suffering from a complicated pregnancy, if there are so many bizarre things that can happen associated with pregnancy that we just don't talk about because, they're painful and they're hard and often shameful. And those are the things, those are the gray areas that make it so complicated. But for you as a patient, don't be afraid to ask those questions. Don't be afraid to seek that information. The help is there and you will not get in trouble here in the state for seeking information.
Yeah, and when the Dobbs decision first came down, there were a lot of stories that came out. You were talking about patients, other people were talking about patients. We don't hear that as much. Don't think that that's still not happening. Just because something isn't in the news all the time doesn't mean that women and couples aren't still going through their own sort of hell through a troubled pregnancy or a health scare or whatever the case may be, all brought on by these politicians wearing judges' robes, where thankfully some of that madness is going to be reversed at the state Supreme Court level.
I can't wait. I mean, it happened. We talk about these emergency situations that don't happen all that often, but they do happen. It happened to me when I was in Minnesota a few weeks ago. I had someone who came in with a pre-viable pregnancy who was bleeding, and the answer for her was an abortion. And I was able to take care of her the way that she deserved to be taken care of quickly, saving her life. And this was a desired pregnancy. But, I had to stop and take pause before I helped her and did her procedure, thinking, what would I be doing right now if I was in Wisconsin? I didn't have time to find other physicians to sign off on it. I was in the boondocks. There was nobody there. So, I've been there. Don't tell me it doesn't happen. I've been there.
Yeah, no, it does. So, and then lastly, you were doing this as you do this work in other states and you're traveling and you were talking about, doing this mountain of laundry. And I'm a I'm a little confused about this because I get, I'm being a little simplistic here, but I mean, doctor, don't you just throw on a fresh pair of scrubs every day and then somebody else does your laundry? I mean, it's that simple, right?
Well, when I was gone for a month, I mostly did my laundry in the sink in the hotel, to be honest, or I wore the hospital's, scrubs and they just did my laundry for me. But when I came home, as it turns out, my 3 sons really they weren't really keeping up with their laundry. So yesterday I offered free laundry day. It was not my laundry. I mean, I'm still a mom when it comes
Oh,
right down to it.
I know, and God bless Sherry. She, we had all the kids, the daughters, the grandkids for a full week, and then we dropped them off, or they hit the road again. And part of that took us through Milwaukee, which is why I stayed behind to do a work thing. But it also meant that she yesterday was doing all of Laundry Mountain, all of the clothing, all of the sheets and everything. So a very public thank you for Sherry, who also, like you, dresses very nicely for work every day, does not rely on somebody. But I can't help but think of the movie Idiocracy. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but we get to the point where basically everybody's in scrubs. Essentially, you pull up like a disposable shirt out of a box every morning and you put it on and then you throw it away. And then the landfills, get overflowing. But that's a story for another time. And if you haven't seen Idiocracy, I can't recommend it highly enough. Let's pause. We will have today's history lesson and music break and much more gratitude for Kristen Larry for helping me lighten the load on this pony show day where somebody's a little hoarse. We'll be back right after this. Oh, yeah. Sing it, Barry. Very nice.
You said very white. Yeah, and I saw Erin, I saw the light bulb actually go on in Erin's head.
That's great. That was perfect.
Pat, a little if you're not getting better fast enough, a little Medrol dose pack might not hurt.
What is Medrol?
It is prednisone.
Oh, okay.
It's steroids.
Oh,
You could be on roids. But it does help your vocal cords when you've got this inflammation that's causing this discomfort.
Okay. I will consult with my OBGYN and I will my personal gynecologist, see what she's got to say about this.
Your OBGYN ENT?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. MOUSE. So now are you familiar with Danielle and Erin from Motherhood for Good, who are going to be pinch hitting for Nicole and Kate? Okay. I've got them at 7:05. They were initially just going to bump yesterday 7:30 to today, but Meliss Agard is coming on at 7:30, so they're going to do the 7:05, 7:15, and it's just going to be all about Protasiewicz and how things are going to be different and such. So you're certainly welcome to sit in on it if you like.
I would be happy to. I've got nothing else going on except I have to put away some of the laundry.
All right. Well, dude, just that's my invitation to jump in with questions. So I'm not just the only one doing all talking here, because it's all about the moms getting active, getting fired up.
I love that there are more moms involved with. I mean, we know there are a ton of moms with Motherhood for Good, but
No, it's good to
broadening the
see more.
bench.
Exactly. All right, 10 seconds. Here we go.
Hey.
There you go. I think that not everybody, of course, but I think a whole lot of people now think of Guardians of the Galaxy when they hear that one, Redbone, Come and Get Your Love, one of many great songs on the original Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. Guardians of the Galaxy opened in theaters on this day in 2014. So the film is 9 years old now. Hooked on a Feeling was on there along with some others. I mean, it's just guaranteed. If you're going to go play a jukebox someplace, just play that soundtrack. You're going to be well received.
I love it when my kids play their music in the car and one of my songs comes up on their playlist.
I know. How great is that? You know?
Yeah.
I had that happen a couple of times last week. I'm like, how do you know this song? And they mentioned some movie that I didn't see that it was in the soundtrack for it. I'd be like, that's awesome. That's
Or
so
there's
great.
an Engelbert Humperdinck song that had been circulating on TikTok, and they busted that out, and I was like, that's my mom's music. Like that was so cool.
And related to that is when just a little snippet of an old song is sampled in something.
Mhm.
And I'll say, oh, that's from when I was a kid. And I'll go, no, it's not. And then I'll play them the original, and they'll hear suddenly ELO's Evil Woman come on, and they're like, oh yeah, I see. Yeah, there are no original ideas anymore, right? That's what Dad would say, of course. Jerry Garcia was born on this day 81 years ago. The lead singer of the Grateful Dead passed away in 1995. But here are a couple that'll make us feel our age. The lead singer for Def Leppard, Joe Elliott, is 64. On the cusp of senior citizenhood, born this day in 1959 in Sheffield, England, and also on this day in 1980, which happened to be his 21st birthday, Def Leppard performed for their first U.S. live concert, opening for AC/DC in New York City. So happy birthday to Joe Elliott. Chuck D, the leader of Public Enemy, is 63 years old today. He was born Carlton Douglas Ridenour in Queens. This would have been the 60th birthday for Coolio, who was born artist Leon Ivy in Compton, but he passed away in September of last year. And actor Jason Momoa is 44. People either do or do not have an immediate visceral reaction when I say Jason Momoa. Where are you on that, Kristen?
I don't actually have an immediate visceral reaction.
Okay. Now we know what's same with my wife. She's like, I mean, he's handsome and stuff. He's a nice guy. Seems like he's a sweetheart, but yeah, not one of those where you go, oh, or whatever. I can't even believe I got that high with my imitation of a Jason Momoa reaction. All right, let's get out of that topic quickly, then move on to 1981. This is the anniversary when MTV, which used to stand for Music Television and used to play videos, began broadcasting videos, starting with this one by the Buggles.
Love
that is exactly what we thought. We thought that, the future was all music videos, that radio was dead. Nope. Radio is still very much here, and video music channels gone.
You can still see videos though. Like video music channels are still there. You just have to, it's like Vivo and they're all.
Oh yeah, but
streaming.
I mean, they're nothing like. I mean, they used to be anticipated like Hollywood premieres. They got to be like these big budget affairs and everything, and that was much of a fad as bell bottoms were in the 70s. Now, this was not the number one song in 1981. That happened to belong to Rick Springfield. There's that familiar guitar.
I saw him recently in Green Bay.
Oh, you did go see him, didn't you?
Yeah, he still puts on an amazing show with, incidentally, Pat, lots of video clips, including like clips of him as Dr. Noah Drake in General Hospital, but great show.
Oh, I tell people all the time, one of my favorite live shows ever was Rick Springfield. He was at Rockfest in Cadott, and this was well over 10, maybe 15 years ago at least. And boy, did he bring it. I was there to see, I think it was Boston and Hart. And so he was kind of earlier in the billing, but I mean, he had the crowd in the palm of his hand for as hard as he was working them. It was really good. So he's still doing that.
That was my first concert too, at the Wisconsin State Fair.
Wow. Okay. It was on this day in 1498 that Christopher Columbus became the first European to visit what is now known as Venezuela. And I like that that's how we word these things now. It's no longer Christopher Columbus discovered Venezuela on this day in 1498. It was always there. He was the first year. He was the first European to stumble upon it. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
On this day in 1971, George Harrison hosted the Concert for Bangladesh, the first major charity concert and a precursor to Live Aid. There were guests like Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Billy Preston, Ringo Starr. Here's a little clip of George with his signature hit as part of that concert. And there have been so many. I mean, it really set the stage for what was to follow in terms of charity concerts and big events, using the power of music to raise money for all sorts of good causes.
You think about what the Beatles have done over the course of their career, that short time that they were together, and all of the things that they've done since that time. What an incredible... I don't even have the words. Like, they've influenced music, they've influenced culture, they've influenced, how we do philanthropy. I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Oh yeah, same here. Hey, before I forget, on this hour, I want to mention that we are doing another Milwaukee Brewers ticket giveaway on Thursday. Assuming my voice says I can be here on Thursday, we will be giving away 4 tickets to Saturday evening's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates at American Family Field. So stick around for that on Thursday. And normally Thursdays, Dr. Lyerly joins us at about this time as well. So if you don't mind coming back Thursday and helping me give away some baseball tickets, that'd be nice of you.
I would love to. And we're going to talk to some friends who are biking advocates. They use bicycling to encourage people to get out and be healthy.
That sounds way too healthy for me. Erin's going to be our pro bicycle voice for that segment. It's not going to be me.
I'll do my best.
All right. Final topic, kids. Where are we on the new Skittles flavor? I'm sure it's a limited time thing. French's yellow mustard Skittles.
Yeah.
You're joking.
No,
not joking. And
I think
now I'm not saying they're going to be in the bag with all the others. God forbid, because that sounds like a sick joke. But some people who really like mustard, they get a mustard Skittle.
I ran that one by Kristen Bry, who happens to really love Skittles, and even she kind of flinched.
Yeah. Okay, good. Just wanted to take the temperature of the room because mustard has its place. Especially stone ground mustard on a fresh pretzel. But anyway, we've got some of the friends from Motherhood for Good. Kristen's going to stick around as well. All this coming up in the second hour here up north.
Let's not forget the Mustard Museum in Middleton.
I didn't have time to pump that into, but yeah, that's always got to get a mention. Oh, all right. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. You can do this, Pat.
You got this, brother.
I got this. All right. Let's see who's here. Danielle's here. There we go. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I was trying to get my headphones to connect, and I don't think they're going to, so it's all right.
Okay.
How are you feeling, Pat?
I've been better, but better than yesterday. So we'll just keep making progress. So my apologies for the little glitches here and there, but still, I think it's still good to get a good message out there. Dr. Lively's going to hang around and join us too, and ask some questions, mostly to take the stress off my voice, and because she's far better at this than I am when it comes to raising some good questions and raising the energy about what a special day this is.
Yeah, it's a very exciting day.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to that. So Erin should be around shortly, and then we'll get going at 7:06. So I'll just wait and see when she comes on here, and then I'll step away for a moment. I don't think I have enough time to brew another cup of coffee. I'm in a hotel room with one of those teeny tiny coffee makers. Here comes Erin. And Erin should be there now. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Getting better. So Danielle's here. Dr. Lyerly is going to stick around as well. and we're going to get going at 7:06. But as a usual reminder, folks watching on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, they're still seeing and hearing us. So mind your P's and Q's. But now that you're here, you can just sit tight for a couple of minutes. I'm going to refill my water glass and be right back here.
I too am going to fill my coffee cup. Be right back.
And I want to join the club. I want to fill my water.
How are you doing, Erin?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
We'll get to just spend the whole day together
I know, it's awesome.
on this exciting best first day of August that we've
Seriously. Yeah, it's so exciting. I have a vintage Motherhood for Good Janet sticker. I think I'm going to wear today.
Amazing.
I'll see if I can find
I
another
love
one.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely gave all of my extras to my parents.
Oh,
As
nice.
some nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
We're so happy to be here.
The moms take over Up North News Radio.
Love it.
Just spreading the good word
Mhm.
anywhere we can.
Seriously. Where are you
Yeah.
located? What cities are you in?
I live in Tosa.
And I'm in Elm Grove.
I'm up in Green Bay.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
Pat's in Milwaukee today.
Yeah, what are you
Oh.
doing in Milwaukee?
We were having what is supposed to be an Up North News team retreat because we now have 4 people on staff, and we thought it'd be nice to finally get in the same room together and meet each other personally and have some nice have a nice work session. But one member of the team is quite sick, and the other one just got here to the hotel about 2 hours ago after an 8-hour drive.
Oh,
So
man.
it's not going to be quite the retreat that we were initially planning, but it'll still be nice to chat.
Yeah,
And
totally.
just a day off not a day off. We'll follow breaking news, but just take some days to brainstorm and strategize and things like that.
We did that a few months back. It was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually your experience echoes what happened to us.
That's
because
true. Oh my gosh.
One
that's
of the 5 of us, so small group to begin with, and
Yeah.
one of the 5 of us was under the weather. So we need a redo.
right,
rather quickly.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, this person says they can zoom in, so I'm like, okay, we'll do that. We're all Zoom experts now, you know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
There is just something so nice, though, about sharing the same space.
Oh,
I was in Washington, D.C. over the weekend with our American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists PAC. We've got a PAC. And so it's all of these advocacy leaders from all over the country. And we haven't been together in the same room since before COVID.
Oh
And
my
you
gosh.
could tell, like, we were all just so happy to see each other. And, you know, we shared different opinions and different perspectives, but it was so easy to come to a consensus because we all just really felt like we were moving toward the right direction. And we found all of this compromise. It was ideal. And most of it
really
was
amazing.
because it wasn't about we were checking off those boxes on a Zoom and getting through an hour-long meeting. It was about spending time together and having meals together and enjoying
Collaboration,
drinks together. Collaboration. Yeah. Being in the same space is entirely different than a Zoom.
It matters so much.
Yeah.
It really
Mhm.
does. And like you can get so much done without that, of course,
Right.
but it's not the same.
Mhm.
All right, we are 1 minute away, which means I got to get to my notes. Let's see, here we go.
It's like being a mom too. You know, I feel like you can do all those things you have to do, like feed your child, diaper your child, get the laundry done. But there's something about that time where you're just sitting in the living room and they come in and just start talking to you
Mhm.
that you can't schedule that. That's not something you can check off. You just have to you have to create that space to let it happen.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a great a great comparison.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to bring this up full here. And we'll get started in about 15 seconds.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, thank you, Don, but that's not entirely correct. Let's call it our Lake Michigan studios here in downtown Milwaukee, where I'm traveling for Up North News on this Tuesday, August 1st. Welcome back to our second hour. If you missed the first hour, you missed my entire tale of woe about losing my voice entirely over the weekend, and it is coming back slowly, although I almost feel it fading by the minute as I go on here. So God bless Kristen Lyerly for agreeing to stick around and help me visit with the folks from Motherhood for Good, who are going to be talking about why this Tuesday, August 1st is such a special day. But before we get to that, I just wanted to note that August 1st, first Tuesday in August, is also National Night Out Day. It's a time to promote police and community partnerships in neighborhoods all across the country, focusing on the community, raising awareness through camaraderie and partnerships, improving area relationships as one way to make our neighborhoods safer. So in communities throughout Wisconsin, events are going on, and we just hope that those all go extremely well. And if you've never been to one, hope you get a chance to attend one later on today. But again, back to what today is for a lot of other people. You could say a better Wisconsin begins today, because this is the day that a new justice hops onto the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Janet Protasiewicz will mark a new era, a return to normalcy after years of political activism by far-right justices. And so we're going to discuss the significance for Wisconsinites in our next half hour with Senate Democratic leader Meliss Agard, but also we're our friends from Motherhood for Good who are here, Danielle, Linn, and Erin Phillips, who are here. And again, along with the vocal glitches, we might have a little internet glitch here and there with our Milwaukee connection, so please pardon that as well. But Danielle and Erin, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. We're so happy to be here on this. I was telling Danielle before we got on, the best first day of August that I can remember celebrating.
Definitely.
It's a really special one today.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely get that impression here. And it's not just, I mean, we'll certainly talk about the court and where things go from here, but we want to take this segment to really talk about how that got to happen. It happened because of the activism of all kinds of people, a lot of them moms, who had never really been involved much before, and decided to step up. And I'm sure, Erin and Danielle, that was you at one point, along with several other people who were extremely busy between January and April. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly as you said, there was a lot of people really stepping up to the plate, realizing the significance of this election, what was at stake. We'll speak more specifically about that, I'm sure, as the conversation goes on, but stepping out of their comfort zone a little bit and going, this is crucial to maybe a level that they didn't see in any other election. We could hem and haw about whether that's true, but people saw something, I think, really different in this election and saw the chance to, as you were speaking to earlier, kind of re-navigate the ship, right? Reorient the ship of Wisconsin a little bit to really set things in the right direction. And just the response across the state was astounding. I mean, and obviously the results spoke to how fully this state wanted to stand up and say, this is enough, and here's a place where we can make some significant change.
Totally. And, think about in the last decade, how many people were turning out for these off year, even like the primary. Like, think about how many people turned out and voted in that primary that never would have thought of voting in anything but a presidential, less than 10 years ago. So you can definitely feel the shift. You can feel people really embracing the idea that politics is a part of everyday life. We should not keep it in this little box. It affects every aspect of our lives in such just a basic way. We need to keep it a part of our lives. We need to be engaged in every election. And I think that this was just a great example of when we do that, when we make it clear to people how important it is to be involved, that we can make a difference, and even in the little ways as sharing things on your Instagram, as we, encourage our followers to do, or talking to people in your everyday life and getting people to come to the polls with you. Like, it can be as simple as that. And once you get out of that, like, oh, I don't know if this is in my comfort zone, like, you can see the real change happening. And we definitely saw that in this election. And we're just really excited about how it went.
You are so right, Danielle. Politics is in every part of our lives. Like, we're seeing it in school boards. We're certainly seeing it in our healthcare, like every aspect of what we do. And, Erin, you mentioned that people are stepping out and finding their voices. How did you guys find your voice? Like, where did Motherhood for Good come from? We only have a minute left, but we can definitely continue to talk about this after our break. But for starters, hey, how did you find your voice?
That's such a great question. And of course, our founding leader, the founder of the organization, is typically on the program and isn't this week. But Kate Duffy, of course, is the founding member of Motherhood for Good. This was her brainchild. And it started out of a response that she felt she needed to do something she had never done before following the Uvalde shooting. She didn't want to feel powerless, basically. So she started this group. It coincided with Mandela Barnes' Senate campaign, and the five of us somehow find each other. So
there you go. Good start. It's something we'll continue on the backside of the break, along with our weatherology forecast update coming up right after this. You're Up North. All righty. Little 2-minute break here and then some weather.
Oh my gosh, it goes so fast.
It goes so fast. Yep. I looked over at the clock while we were chatting and I was like, really? What, we haven't said
seriously
anything useful. No, that's not true, but
I love that. I would love for both of you to just share like a super short version of why you chose to get involved, because I think one of the things that really makes people reluctant is that it's politics and I just don't want to get involved and it's ugly and I don't want people to disagree. Yeah. I don't want to create conflict. So, if people hear a little bit about what inspired you to step up, I think that might encourage our listeners to say, hey, wait a minute, I can do that too.
Well, what we'll do then is I'll do the weather, little brewer score, and then I'll just say now back with our friends from Motherhood for Good, Danielle and Erin. Kristen, you just jump in with that question.
Super.
Super indeed.
Super duper. Yeah, moms.
Moms.
Mm-hmm. It is really exciting. I mean, I really feel so hopeful in a way that I haven't felt hopeful in a very long time. And I see it in my kids and the things that they're saying back to me. It just seems like we are on the verge of a very different horizon.
That's amazing to have that reflection from your kids. Maybe Eliza, Danielle, is having profound politically involved thoughts. My 2.5-year-old is not.
Here we go.
Weirdly,
we'll be back in 10 seconds.
It's gonna be a new day for you. A new day for you.
Welcome to a new day in Wisconsin, and we'll talk more about today's swearing in of Janet Protasiewicz to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But first, let me tell you that in sports, the Milwaukee Brewers lost to the Washington Nationals 5-3 last night for their fourth straight loss. They also tumbled out of first place in the National League Central Division. They will pick up that series in the nation's capital starting again later this evening. Jennifer Wojcicki is here from Weatherology, who has a forecast and a voice that isn't nearly as rocky as my voice has been. At least I think so. I hope we have something not nearly as gravelly in our weather forecast for the state. Jen's going to tell us all about it. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, not quite as rocky for me today. But yeah, we're looking at some sunshine or areas of haze and smoke coming in here for today, particularly around Wausau, Wisconsin Rapids, over towards Oshkosh due to more Canadian wildfires. So definitely something to keep in mind today, especially if you have respiratory issues. Otherwise, looking at highs in the mid-80s for everyone, sunny skies as well. Wednesday, temperatures linger in the mid to upper 80s, sunny skies for the southern part of the state, then a little bit more cloud cover with a chance for showers and storms from Oshkosh up towards Wausau and over towards west central Wisconsin. Mid to upper 80s primarily for Thursday, 90 around Richland Center and the southwestern portions of the state with sunny skies for most, just a slight chance for an isolated rainstorm around Wausau. Then back into the mid to low 80s here for more of an average time of the year on Friday. Upper 70s, a little bit closer to Lake Michigan. Sunny skies for most, but some clouds moving in from Amory and Baldwin down towards Richland Center, so for that western part of the state. And then it looks like at least a slight chance for some rain to start off the weekend on Saturday with temperatures lingering right around about 80.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
No problem.
There's Jennifer Wojcicki from Weatherology, and happy to say that the latest crop report shows that soil moisture is eking back up and that crops are progressing only slightly behind last year and a 5-year average, but we'll need that rain to continue in spurts for that to continue to be a good year for Wisconsin's producers. All right, back to our topic here of it being a new day in Wisconsin with our friends Erin and Danielle from Motherhood for Good and Dr. Kristen Lyerly joining us as well to talk about how we got to this point, Kristen.
Yeah. So before we start talking about Janet, before the break, we were talking about what has inspired us to get involved. And during the secret show on Facebook, we were talking about, sharing our own personal stories. So Erin and Danielle, tell us, what was that thing for you personally that inspired you to step up?
I'm a Wisconsin native. I was born here. I moved to Chicago for a bit and then Indiana for a bit and then came back with my husband and my now 3 kids. And I've always been, fairly politically engaged, always a voter, even in off elections. But there was something about the midterms last year that really felt like really important to get involved. And especially now that I'm, raising my kids here and just wanting to make sure that it can be the best state and the best country possible for them. And I was actually on maternity leave. My son was born last July. So I was on maternity leave last summer and just started following, Kate and Moms for Mandela at the time. And just wanting to really, really get involved with that. And we just built such a great community, both online and, our small but mighty, like local leaders. And it just felt like there's so much here, like everything that we did, even though that election did not turn out the way that we wanted it to, the way that it should have,
Mm-hmm.
We just needed to build on that momentum and showing people, that the little ways that you can make a big impact in your own communities, and just find your voice to get engaged, and make a change.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Erin?
So I am still a fairly new Wisconsinite. I moved here almost exactly a year ago, July of last year. And prior to having moved here, I went to undergrad in Wisconsin. I went to Beloit College. So my love for Wisconsin runs deep, but I'm from New Mexico. So moved here with my husband last year and our kiddo. My husband grew up in Milwaukee. And ahead of our move, I had been following Moms for Mandela, again, as Danielle mentioned, at the time iteration that started Motherhood for Good. So I was following Moms for Mandela, knowing that we'd be moving to Wisconsin right ahead of, as Danielle was pointing out, these crucial midterm elections. So similarly, I've always been politically minded, never engaged to this level. Always, stayed informed and voted and tried to talk to my friends and family about doing the same, but never as we're talking about, really stepped out of my comfort zone to kind of get out there in my community, be that in person or virtual, and talk and have dialogue about this, and try to make it less hush hush, to try to make it more comfortable for people to speak about, to try to make people feel comfortable informing themselves, not being afraid that maybe they don't know something and so they shouldn't talk about it. Like, let's talk about it. As Danielle was mentioning earlier, it affects every part of our life, so let's let it be in every part of our life, because it's going to be whether we sort of engage with it or not. So anyway, back to my move here. I met Kate and the crew, and as Danielle said, that first midterm election that I was here for didn't go in the direction we wanted, but then we kind of immediately hit the ground running, preparing for April's election, and boy, did those results turn out the way we did want. So it's been really incredible. Just couldn't ask to have gotten to know a better team of people to help usher me into my Wisconsin era.
Did those results turn out the way we needed them to turn out? I mean, come on, let's celebrate. It's August 1st.
Absolutely.
Here we are anticipating Justice Janet Protasiewicz. We couldn't even say her last name a year ago, but now she's on the Supreme Court later today. What do you think? Pat, it looks like you have a question that you are queuing up. It's just so exciting for all of us to be here, to be,
Well,
looking
sure.
to the future.
We can talk about, what it will mean for her on the court, but I didn't want to leave the involvement of these individuals without talking about how it actually wasn't that unique. In other words, you all found more kindred spirits, and that's reflected in the trends that you saw in counties, in the historic turnout. It seemed like the ultimate act of learning, I'm not alone. How was that?
I think
Danielle? Or Lynn, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry, Erin, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that what we saw, exactly as you were saying, finding kindred spirits, finding people who cared and who wanted to see these results come through, we were seeing that, we were pushing, and so was every other organization or sort of collective, right, who works to pursue progressive political work in this state. It's like everybody saw the specific sort of special nature of this election, and everyone pushed. And you can see, like you were saying, that collective effort throughout the state. And it's, when I think back to it, I'll stop myself and think about it. It's really astounding.
It really is. And Danielle, you get that same sense?
Yes, definitely. And like you said, you're seeing the shifts in I live in Waukesha County, for example. Like, the city of Waukesha went for Janet. Like, we're feeling those. When you look at the map overall, which we can talk about the maps, but it sometimes can feel like, oh, I'm in this, like deep red, like I'll go vote, but like I'm not gonna, change minds if I talk to my community. Like, you might feel that, but if you really look at it, if you look at the data, like, things are shifting, and so it's important to stay engaged and to see that momentum in those directions, because it it's just like, you truly, even though it doesn't necessarily like, oh, every county's going to flip blue overnight, like, that's not what we're expecting, but watch the data move in that direction, and you can see that there really are people who are like coming out of the woodwork and being like, my voice does matter in this area that might have been, typically red or that kind of thing. Like, you're finding those parts of the communities, and it's moving towards change, which is really exciting.
Your voice does matter. And I think a lot of us have felt like, oh, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't really make a difference if I show up or not, but it does. And that's what Motherhood for Good stands for. Moms standing together and using our voices. And Erin, I'm wondering, what do you think having Janet on the court will likely mean for the future of Wisconsin?
Hopefully all good things. No, so I just saw a headline that was reported that Justice Brian Hagedorn, apologies if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. I've only ever
Oh,
read it.
you're good.
Okay, great. So Justice Hagedorn is on the record saying that he believes soon to be Justice Janet's position on the court will bring about a shift in judicial philosophy. And if there isn't a more profound sort of mark of the recognition that something is going to change with her being on the court, I don't know what else to sort of look for it than in arguably and at least often conservative mind on the bench. So, certainly we're likely to see litigation come before the Wisconsin Supreme Court about the abortion ban, about fair maps, about other sort of voting rights issues, like maybe ballot boxes will come back before the court. I think I read something about that. There's all these issues that we've seen kind of whittled away at in Wisconsin that are likely to be brought back before the court by ongoing litigation in the state by really incredible lawyers who've been fighting the fight through the slow legal system. And now we're going to see some of those cases come back before the court now with this new progressive majority bench, which is amazing that we can say that Wisconsin has that again.
So can I ask, not to be the one that smothers this, or throws a wet blanket on it all, but do you feel like people are prepared to be patient? Because we've seen, look at the difference from 2008 to 2010, because not everything got fixed all at once. You had the Tea Party come in. And do you think people are better prepared? Look, it's going to take 3+ years for, Donald Trump and others to find any sense of accountability. So if things don't change instantly, and by instantly, I mean next November, 2024, when there's a presidential election, do you think people will be prepared for that? Or are you really hoping if we don't see fast action, we might lose a window of opportunity?
I think that's a really good point, Pat. And I think it all comes down to those conversations that we're having with people. Like things don't change on a dime. But when we are seeing this progressive action and you're seeing little things that are making a difference, I think that we can use that to keep people motivated and just remind people that, we like our democratic system. It doesn't work overnight, but that's kind of part of it, right? Like we're all working together towards these common goals, and to just keep people engaged and to keep people excited about what's to come is really, I think, what's on our list for going into 2024.
Well, you couldn't find better people to keep people engaged.
Nobody understands baby steps better than moms.
That is a very good point.
That's exactly it. Danielle, Linn, Erin, Phillips, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you very much for hanging around too. I really appreciate you helping lighten the load.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll take a break. And
thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Coming up next, State Senate Democratic leader Meliss Agard will help us continue the subject right after this. You're Up North.
That was awesome.
It's so fun being on here.
So fun.
Oh,
yeah.
you guys are great. Thank you so much for this.
I'm so glad you're feeling better.
Yeah. Things will be back to normal soon, but we're in that funny little transition period like we all have to go through sometimes. And so even though it wasn't the show we'd normally have, I think we got some good information. We got people feeling good. That's the main thing. So thank you for helping with that.
Always
Have a
happy
great day,
to throw a Love Wisconsin party.
Well,
We'll talk
love
to y'all
it.
soon.
Okay. Y'all have
Bye-bye.
a great day. Thank
You too.
you.
Bye.
You too.
If you want me to stick around with Melissa, I can do that, but I'm happy to go too. Whatever you want, whatever lightens your load.
I will grab her and try to power her on through this one, and with my undying gratitude, of course. I'm going to make sure that she's here with us here. I think so. Melissa, I hear you. I think I hear you.
I am here. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm for some reason my camera is not loading. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Is it going to be off
We
the
got
whole
3
thing?
minutes before we're back on, so if you want to mess with it, you have time.
It says it's on, but for some reason it's not.
Is there like a little slider over it or something?
It
I know on
just
some laptops
like I
there's
can
that.
turn it off and then I'm not sure what.
I mean, like a physical little cover over the camera. Some I don't know if you're on a laptop, but some of them have that.
No, so I did not know that I needed Chrome last time I was able to get on. So my laptop does not have the most recent version of Chrome, so I'm on my phone.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. That's
So
fine. We will be just
downloading
fine.
the newest version, and if I can
Oh.
switch if that happens. But I didn't know this before I tried to log on at 7:25. So I apologize.
That's okay. No, we're a radio show first and foremost. We'll get the information out there. So I'm assuming that the Capitol is going to be a busy place today.
I hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I mean, it's not like inaugural balls, but I'm sure folks will be having a lovely time after the investiture as well.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like a coronation.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. Let's see, we've got about a minute and a half till we come back here. Here we go. And so we'll touch on today's events. Do you want to give an update on your reception on the grassroots tour?
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And it seems like my computer might be getting closer, so
Okay.
I can. Entering studio.
All right.
Got about 30 seconds, so we should have just enough time for that.
Perfect.
I'm spinning.
The spinning.
There we go.
Hey, there
All
we
right,
go.
I'm hanging my phone up.
All righty. Yep, perfect. There you are. There. Now can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
Look at that.
All right, here we go.
With 5 seconds to spare, just like we planned it. It does kind of have that feeling around Wisconsin this morning as the sun rises down here over Lake Michigan.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun.
Justice Janet Protasiewicz will formally take that title later this afternoon at the state capitol in Madison, where the Senate Democratic leader is State Senator Meliss Agard, and she joins us now to talk about both Janet Protasiewicz's swearing in and other goings on in the legislature. Senator, good morning. So nice to see you.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be with you here today. It feels super historic for the Midwest. I've never looked forward to an August 1st more.
Yes. And can we start by, I would contend, putting people at ease, because despite all of the blather that's come from certain corners, this actually is going to represent, I believe, a return toward something that's more normal compared to what we've seen from the previous iterations of the Wisconsin Supreme Court over the past 15 years. Would you agree?
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think that the voters of Wisconsin thought long and hard about who it is that they wanted to put in this seat. And it's clear that having someone who's pragmatic and lifting up the values, ensuring that the laws in Wisconsin are being interpreted to match the values and their intent is so important. So yes, today is an exciting day where Judge Janet becomes Justice Protasiewicz here in Wisconsin. And I was recently in DC. All eyes are on us. There is no question about that, as people are watching how it is that having a more fair and balanced court will impact democracy here in the Midwest.
I'm glad you said that, because it's one of those things we got asked all the time back in 2020, saying, where'd your name come from? And we said, well, it's because all of America is looking up north for news, because we are such a bellwether about how elections go. And that can be said for Supreme Court races as well as presidential races. Now, in this case, while Wisconsin is still what you would call a purple state, the margin was not as close as, presidential, Senate, and gubernatorial races. As you look back on April, we've had much more time to digest the numbers. Why do you think that was? Was it simply turnout on one side exceeding another, or what does it say about independent-minded people who were making their decisions last April?
Well, abortion is still front and foremost in voters' minds, and I do think the fact that people feel and know that their rights and freedoms and liberty are on the line here in the state of Wisconsin, knowing the difference between the two candidates. One of them is going to have the backs of their personal freedoms and liberty, and one of them is going to stand in the way and hide behind political ideologies. And I think it is a good trend. In Wisconsin, we know that progressive-minded folks, and in fact, the middle-of-the-road voters are leaning more towards Democrats here in the state of Wisconsin when we look at top-of-the-ticket elections, because Republicans have been in the pockets of special interest groups and doing their bidding in the state capitol. And frankly, it's affected our courts in Wisconsin as well. So knowing that Justice Protasiewicz, soon to be Justice Protasiewicz, is going to lift up those values, it just matches the continuing trend of election results in Wisconsin, which I think is really exciting for 2024. It's going to be an amazing year here, real change potentially happening in our state. And knowing that the road back to the White House for President Biden and Senator Baldwin is so imperative to people paying attention. More people are listening to radios, reading newspapers, and frankly, reaching out to their elected officials so that their values are represented in our government.
I'm going to repeat the question that I asked our friends from Motherhood for Good just before the end of the last segment, but then kind of turn the question around on you. What I asked of them is, are people who helped elect Janet Protasiewicz, are they willing to be patient? Because not everything is going to be addressed and fixed by this state Supreme Court instantly. It's going to take some time for these cases to be heard and things like that. But I would turn around to say to you, especially in terms of new maps, do you believe that everybody involved understands what I would call the urgency of the matter, and what a blow it would be if a new maps case isn't decided in time for the 2024 election? Or do you think the odds of that are just too small to worry about?
Oh, the odds are not too small to worry about. Ultimately, if people want cannabis legalized in Wisconsin, as it is today in Minnesota, being the first day that cannabis is legal, continuing the trend of the Midwest, of Wisconsin being a island of prohibition in the Midwest, or abortion access, or access to quality health care, or child care, or paid family leave, right? The list is long, addressing gun violence. There is a lot on the line. We need to get this right. And I have a lot of hope in the case that is being put together by Law Forward. I think they have the best people at the table. And I also believe very much that we have a more thoughtful court coming in. There's been a number of stories recently about Justice Hagedorn and his independence, despite who it is that was endorsing him and putting him in that spot. So here in Wisconsin, we like to get things done right. And yes, there is a lot on the line. It is hard to be patient. I think there's a lot of us in Wisconsin that feel like Charlie Brown with Lucy holding that football, and it keeps getting yanked out. And I believe that 2024 is the year that we're actually going to get some field goals across the finish line.
So to that end, on August 1st, and legal cannabis in Minnesota, as well as Michigan and Illinois, you recently made a few more stops on what you call your grassroots tour, telling the public and getting public opinion about the issue of marijuana legalization. Since we talked to you, you've made stops in the Chippewa Valley, in the Wausau area, I'm sure others as well. What kind of sentiment did you get from folks?
People are baffled by the fact that this has turned into a partisan issue. It is clear across the United States that it is something that Democrats and Republicans all want done, and the majority of the people in Wisconsin, including the majority of Republicans, want it done. The fact that we are an island of prohibition, and after today in Minnesota having it legalized as they are starting to roll out, their legal sales program. And we have a number of sovereign nations in Minnesota who in August are going to unroll legal sales. I believe that the Red Cliff are going to have sales available today for legal cannabis. The majority of the people in Wisconsin are going to live within just mere minutes of legal dispensary, less than 2 hours to be able to get to one. We are less safe. There is less personal freedoms and frankly, less prosperous because of the inability of Republicans to hear the voices of the people of Wisconsin. And also what I heard on the tour is that people want it done right. They don't want political tricks. They want to make sure that we are addressing racial disparities, that we're supporting our local farmers and our main streets. And certainly making sure that we are lifting up the voices of what people want, ensuring that people have access to this plant that does provide medicinal relief to them is at the front and foremost as well. So getting government out of the way for the passing of legal cannabis, as well as getting government out of the way for so many other issues. You might think that I'm a Republican when I'm saying these words, but frankly, it is the Republican Party that is standing in the way of people's ability to have access to cannabis and so many other issues that matter most to them at their kitchen tables for their families.
We got one text in, folks probably using the Civic Media app who texted and basically just says something that leads into a question about polling on this. They say nobody wants pot legal. And I think what you have here is a case where Republican legislators, again, live in a smaller bubble that if you were to talk to more people around the state, you'd see that this is not, that people frankly do want this to be done. They don't want Wisconsin to be an island.
Well, certainly we've had non-binding referendum questions across the state of Wisconsin for the last 5 or so years. Red communities, cities and counties, as well as blue communities, cities and counties, on top of the Marquette Law School polls and other public opinion polls, show that nearly 70% of the people in Wisconsin support full legalization for responsible adult usage. And regulation is a good thing. It makes everything be safer. And over 80% of the people in Wisconsin support medicinal cannabis legalization. So I would say that, in fact, it is the vast minority of people in Wisconsin. I think at a federal level, it's about 10% of the people in the nation believe that we should still have prohibition of cannabis. That means that we are on the right side on this issue. And unfortunately, I disagree with your texter, your listener, and the majority of the people in Wisconsin, including the majority of Republicans, disagree. It is past time we do legalize cannabis in the state of Wisconsin.
And so are you saying then, even though the odds don't look good that the Republican majority would change their mind anytime soon, that they should still be hearing from their constituents on this issue?
Well, with the fact that the maps are very likely to be changing in Wisconsin, I think that we're going to see the Republicans thinking a little bit harder and listening a little bit more intently to what it is that their constituents, their bosses are saying. And cannabis legalization is on a list of many things, whether it's expanding healthcare, allowing a woman's right to choose and personal freedoms for healthcare choices, gun violence, supporting our public schools, protecting our environment. I could go on and on. These are things that people in Wisconsin want us to be doing as a legislature. They are not partisan issues. And I am excited about what 2024 is going to bring us.
Before we get there, we have a fall session scheduled, at least for fall of 2023. Governor Evers made partial vetoes to the state budget bill, signed the bill, left still a hefty surplus behind, and invited Republicans to work on some of the unaddressed issues related to things like childcare and doing another tax cut, but making it geared more toward the middle class. What indications do you see that there will be any kind of a substantive fall session? Could we actually overcome my cynicism and see something new in terms of a modified tax cut or more support for childcare or other issues?
Well, we know that our public schools certainly need more support. We know that we need to be investing in our youngest friends and neighbors here in Wisconsin and their families. providing more support for childcare for hardworking families and businesses to be able to have workers. Frankly, we know that Governor Evers provided a path for real middle-class tax relief. And will continue going into the Capitol building. I'm confident in the hard work that I'm going to put in and that my caucus members are going to put in to be able to get across this finish line. That $4 billion that continues to sit in the state coffers is the people of Wisconsin's money. And it does belong back in our communities. And I think that we can get it done. But it's going to take the majority party to realize that it's past time. We can't play these political tricks. And frankly, with the investiture of Janet Protasiewicz today, I am hopeful that we are turning that corner. That's some of that good work will happen.
And then briefly, just to end on a positive note here, because again, we talked about some folks in the last segment who got involved in politics for the first time, just to help with these last elections in April and the previous November. We talked about them being patient, but what's your own message to them, just for their willingness to even get involved and to be more civic minded than they might have been in the past?
Well, oftentimes when it comes to politics and change in general, it is hard to believe that one person can make a difference, but the power of one cannot be replaced. And government is supposed to be slow and sticky and deliberative. And when it's moving fast down a slide going down a slide on a hot day, that's not necessarily good for the people. It's not good for the community. So not giving up, continuing to believe in the better angels of our state and the power of each person coming together collectively. That's what Wisconsin is about. We build each other's barns. We take care of each other's kids. We walk each other's dogs. We get mail when we're out of town for our neighbors. And we vote in every single election and believe in the potential. And that's where we're at right now. There's an awful lot of potential and excitement for what's coming for Wisconsin.
Senator Meliss Agard, State Senate Democratic leader, joining us on this very special first day of August. Thank you so much, Senator. Appreciate it very much. Have a great day.
You too, Pat.
All right. And when we come back, we'll talk to Chad Holmes from up in Bull Falls Radio. We'll find out what he's talking about up on Bull Falls Radio in Wausau, and wrap up our day Tuesday here from Milwaukee. A little hobbled, but right side of the dirt, always a good thing. Back after this. You're Up North. Very good. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat. Take care.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Squeezing me in. Yep.
Have a day. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
See you.
I don't know why people think they owned us when we don't just repeat insults that they're sending on air.
I know. I thought so. What?
I dare you to say it. You're like, well, that's not very constructive.
Oh, gosh. Oh, well. How's Mr. Holmes?
Better than you are, apparently.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I've been there. It's not fun, I tell you.
Well, it's a line that you straddle because, again, you're not 100%, but you're good enough to do the work, but not at full speed. So, which way do you go? And I'm sure some people were like, he should err on the side of caution and rest for another day. But you know how guilty that feels.
Well, and the thing about it is you think you're good, and then by the time you get to about halfway through it, you feel yourself, I don't know if I'm going to make it all the way.
Yes.
Sometimes you feel all right when you start, because I've done
Yes.
games where I'm fine, but by the second half, it's like, holy cow,
I'd be like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I know. It's gonna be, well, especially after so much time being quiet, just trying to rest things up, which is, again, a very weird position for people like us to be in.
Oh, it's horrible.
I know. I'm going to start by reading the Packers sponsorship promo, and that'll kind of get us into sports with you here.
Well, it's a big day for high school football too. So.
Oh, good. Well, that will have a
First day
natural
of practice.
Great. Okay. Let me get to that promo.
And also, real quick, it's the first anniversary of Bull Falls Radio. 1 year ago it started. So
All right.
Awesome. All right.
Good. 5 seconds.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears
still suck. The Bears still suck. They really, 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 really suck. Yes, the Bears still suck.
I figured this was the appropriate music to read this promo. Autumn Sundays in Wisconsin are a sacred tradition that beats loud and proud, and that would include the Green Bay Packers. You've dreamed of being part of a winning franchise, and now you can. Civic Media's WRJN in Racine and Kenosha will broadcast every Packers game all season long, and your business can be in the huddle and on the line of scrimmage. See what they did there? When you become a sponsor of the Packer broadcasts, the Civic Media marketing teams are ready to get you signed up with the Packers, the Badgers, and local high school sports broadcasts. You can call and make an appointment to speak to a team member about this special opportunity, but hurry because appointments are filling fast. Only a few sponsorships remain. The number to call is 608-819-8255. Again, 608-819-8255. Your business can be affiliated with the real America's team. So get your business off the sidelines and get in the game. One more time, 608-819-8255. 8255. Speaking of sports and high school sports as well, Chad Holmes joins us. August 1st is a big day all around. It's not just the state Supreme Court race. It's not just sports. Bull Falls Radio is 1 year old today. Up North News Radio is 1 year old today. Chad, somebody should have brought a cake.
I absolutely. And first of all, it was nice talking to you after that promo.
Yeah, that I'm
But
still talking.
I'm gonna steal some of those lines when I talk about trying to get on board for our high school stuff around here. But no, it is. It's actually 1 year ago. I remember 1 year ago today, you were one of the first shows that when we made the flip, and obviously whenever you sell a radio station or have changes, you hear things for the first time, and we got on 1 year ago today. My show didn't start until after Labor Day, but it was for the first time, Bull Falls Radio, and then you hear from all the people that didn't like it. Because as you know, it's nothing about the programming, but when you change the people that were listening to the previous incarnation of the radio station, no matter what it is, where did my radio station go?
Exactly.
So, again, those are always the fun days to pick up the phone.
Those were happy times that everybody was watching the same show in one theater, and you come in and go, well, the next show is going to start soon. Get out or stick around if you want this show. But if you don't want this show, you'll have to find. I'm sure many of those folks are here now, having heard you doing a live daily show rather than simply sports. And I don't mean that in any kind of a negative light, but that you've expanded your range in such a way to provide such an essential voice to the community, one that wasn't heard nearly as often as it should be compared to, shall we say, other points of view. So I would hope you'd think that a year into this, it has been a rewarding experience.
It has been. It's been very interesting. In fact, was just talking to one of our engineers who was up here because we had some issues yesterday, and we were talking exactly about that it's different than anything I'd done before. I'd done sort of the generic morning show, with
time and temperature and
throw a song or two in there and talk about the headlines and stuff like that, but nothing like this where you talk to interesting people and you talk about somewhat controversial issues, and I don't know, my dealings with schools have been through sports for the most part, and then to have major issues with consolidation and with a band teacher and everything else going on. It's been an interesting first year. Looking forward to year number 2. Looking forward to getting downtown and taking those next steps as we continue this process.
Yes. And, one thing that we've really had to appreciate a year into this is, first off, what a significant investment is being made in acquiring these radio stations just to build the network. But then behind the scenes, the technology issues, building entirely new studios and getting them wired. That does not flip a switch. You flip a switch and change a name. You can change ownership, but it's going to be a while to get the Wausau studio done. Then they've got to start Chippewa Falls, which looks beautiful. They've remodeled an old building, and all the furnishings are there. But to get the control board wired and everything, that's going to be down the road a ways. But again, if you think of the long-term plans here, it's still fascinating to be at the ground floor, despite those days that have their technical glitches and things like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of worry at times because especially when, we have mobile broadcast coming up with our 3 football teams coming up in a few weeks, and we have some changes with equipment, and I just start worrying right now for the next 3 weeks, and but it's still an exciting time. It's always a growing time, and that's always the aspect because you don't want to be stagnant, and it feels like we're still growing and growing and growing and adding more things, and it should be very interesting over the next year or so.
Well, yeah, and I remember feeling that same way before every election night at the TV station,
Mhm.
because we were using a computer program for the graphics that would take the numbers in and put them up on screen. One that was well past its prime. I don't even think was supported by the company anymore, and so I kind of had to become the master of it and to learn it all at the same time that other things would be going on as well. And I remember telling my bosses one year, you better get some chalkboards ready because we might have to write those numbers on a chalkboard because, the show must go on. People need their sports. They need their election results. They need their news.
I don't know if you reminds me of an old episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, one of the first episodes in the first season where they had an election night where their computers went down. This is like the early 70s, of course, and had to stay on the air with they had like 1% of the numbers and basically saying the numbers are still the same because there was a blizzard and everything got knocked down. And no, exactly right. The show must go on, and that's always the bottom line and the mantra, even though it takes 12 years off your life over one night. I mean,
No doubt about that. So getting back to where we started, is this the first day of high school football practice?
yes, it is, and it's a very exciting time. This is where all the 11-man football teams they get their equipment. They have their first practice today. In fact, I plan on heading over to Wausau West a little bit later on when I get done with my show, just to see how things are looking. And the first day of the new season, the first day of the new academic year, because obviously, the seniors are all gone. Everybody's coming back. School starting, in about a month or so. But it's the beginning, and it's always a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and it keeps me young being around those kids out there.
Oh, no doubt. And yes, those seniors are gone, but now there's some new seniors, and you're
Exactly.
actually you're going to be talking about the top 50 senior football players in all of Wisconsin.
That's right, and a couple of Wausau West players in there, so that's very exciting indeed. A couple of really impressive young men, and not only players. And that's one of the things that I love about being able to know these guys is one of those kids who's ranked 29th, Bryce Jaworski. He's going to be going to the U.S. Military Academy at the Army, play
Oh,
football, and also be a cadet starting next year. So obviously, much more than just a guy on the football field. You don't get into the academy, the Army, unless you are an outstanding young man. So great stories, and it's one of the things I really enjoy telling during the course of these games.
I know full well. My son-in-law is was most recently equipment manager for the West Point football team before he moved to Western Michigan, and that's a huge honor. So I'm sure you're looking forward to talking about that. Chad, thank you so much. Have a great show.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. And thanks all of you, not just for listening, but for listening the way things went today. We'll try it again to do a better job tomorrow as I continue to recover. But in the meantime, stick around for more on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Have a great day.
All right. I got to go right away. Shoot me a message if you need anything.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Chad. See ya.
Bye-bye.